Many viewers have requested recommendations at the lower price points, and so today I'm identifying 10 terrific wines that sell for $20 or less. The first terrific wine for $20 or less comes from Chateau St. Côme. Specifically, I'm talking about the Chateau St. Côme Côtes-Du-RHONE. Chateau St. Côme is a historic producer that's located in Gigondas in the southern Rhone region of France. Chateau St. Côme has 15 hectares of estate vines that they use to make estate fruit. However, they're also negociant, and so they acquire fruit from throughout the Rhone Valley, and they use that to make some outstanding wines as well. While most Côtes-du-RHONE, like Châteauneuf-du-Pape, is Grenache-based and may include some Syrah and Mourvèdre, so a so-called GSM blend, this one is a bit unique in that it is 100% Syrah, which is one reason that I like it so much. They produce about 600,000 bottles of this Côtes-du-RHONE, and they've been making it every year since 1997. It's consistently highly regarded, although the 2020 vintage is down just a hair from its usual acclaim. And so if you can find the 2018 or 2019 vintages of this Côtes-du-RHONE on the shelves, I would definitely get those instead. The next top wine for $20 or less is the Feudi de San Gregorio Greco de Tufo, which sells for right around $20. Feudi de San Gregorio is located in southern Italy, close to Mount Vesuvius in Campania's Irpinia region. Feudi de San Gregorio began producing wine back in 1986, but it's already racked up more than 220 90-point ratings for the wines that it makes. They make an excellent Falanghina white wine as well, but this Greco de Tufo is my favorite white wine that they produce. This wine is made from 100% Greco de Tufo. If you're not familiar with Greco de Tufo, it's known for its pronounced acidity. Due to this high acidity, it pairs extremely well with food. The descriptors for this wine include apple, apricot, whetstone, almonds, and it also has a certain saltiness that I appreciate very much. This wine isn't overly complex, but is extremely refreshing and easy to drink. It's also one that I seek out on most restaurant wine lists because it's oftentimes very reasonably priced, and it also pairs extremely well with food, especially with the earlier courses. The next terrific wine for $20 or less is produced by Campagna Vinícola del Norte de España, or CVNE for short. Specifically, I'm talking about the CVNE Viña Real Crianza, which I found for $17 retail in the United States. Those of you in Europe will find it for even less than that, and I was shocked to find this one on a restaurant wine list by the glass in Spain for only €2, which is certainly mind-blowing for those of us in the United States who pay substantial premiums for wine by the glass. As many of you know, CVNE is an excellent producer of Rioja. The fruit for this wine was grown at the facility in Rioja Alavesa. They have a state-of-the-art facility that was completed in probably 2005 or 2006. This wine is generally 90% Tempranillo, and then the remaining 10% is a blend of Grenache, Graciano, and Mossuelo. This wine ages in neutral oak, 70% of which is French and 30% of which is American, for between 13 and 14 months. Due to the use of this neutral oak, this is a wine that still has abundant, vibrant fruit. This vibrant fruit makes this a prime candidate for early consumption. So again, this is one for those of you who lack patience to age wines. The current vintage on release is from the excellent 2019 vintage. However, I did also see some older vintages in the market, so there is pretty good availability for this wine. I tasted the 2019 at the winery a few weeks ago, and it was excellent. A very enjoyable wine and an extremely compelling value at this price point. It's an excellent Crianza and one I would not hesitate to buy year in and year out. The next terrific wine for $20 or less comes from Frescobaldi. Specifically, I'm talking about the Frescobaldi, Nipozzano, Chianti, Rufina, Riserva, which sells right at $20 in the United States. The fruit for this wine consists of a majority of Sangiovese from vines that were planted way back in the 1970s. These vines are planted on the historic Nipozzano estate, which is located only a few kilometers from Florence, Italy. The Nipozzano estate has produced consistently outstanding wines for a number of years. There's also a small amount of blending grapes included in this wine, so it's not 100% Sangiovese. This wine ages for about 24 months, including some time in some previously used barriques, as well as some bottle aging before it's released. As a result, it's not overly oaky, and instead what you're left with is some excellent, stellar, savory Sangiovese fruit, which I very much appreciate. There's a mix of black and red fruit with hints of violets and some savory spicy notes as well. Really an excellent wine. And if you have not tried Chianti lately, I highly recommend it. About 20 years ago or so, they conducted some clonal research, and the results of this clonal research have been significant. Many producers in the region have replanted their vines using the benefit of this clonal research, and as such, those replanted vineyards are just now starting to bear fruit and pay dividends. And so certainly many of the wines in this region have outstanding quality now and are much better than the Chianti that you may have tried maybe 15, 20 years ago. So definitely give it another chance if you haven't tried it recently. 13 generations of the Trimbach family have been producing wine for more than 300 years. I'm both a big fan of Trimbach and of Alsace, France generally when it comes to winemaking. And so for that reason, my next top wine for $20 or less is the Trimbach Riesling. If you're not familiar with Alsace, it actually enjoys a very, very favorable microclimate. This is so because there's a rain shadow cast by the Vosges Mountains. This helps to ensure that there's sunny, dry growing seasons and that the grapes are able to ripen year after year, producing consistently outstanding wines. The Vosges foothills also provide a variety of elevations and soil types, which also helps to add complexity to the wines from Alsace. Now, many people tell me they don't like Riesling because it's too sweet, and they just write off the variety entirely. But that's a big mistake. Many Rieslings are dry, such as this one. If you totally eschew Riesling just because you think that they're sweet, then you're missing out on some extraordinary wines and also some compelling values as well. In 2020, for example, it was number 35 on Wine Spectator's Top 100 list. It's also worth noting that this one is frequently on many restaurant wine lists, and it's an excellent value there as well, and one that will pair well with starters and salads, or even with white meat or seafood. The Domaine Jean-Paul Balland Sancerre is the next top wine for $20 or less. The Balland family has been involved in winemaking for hundreds of years, but Jean-Paul Balland did not start out on his own until the 1980s. Since that time, his daughters have taken over the estate and have done a tremendous job in raising the estate's profile and the quality of its wines. This is a family-owned estate with 48 hectares of vineyards in the prime growing area of the Sancerre appellation in the Loire Valley. So since you're talking about Sancerre, this is 100% Sauvignon Blanc. This producer uses sustainable farming, and beginning with a 2020 vintage, the vineyard was 100% organic. This wine is aged in large oak casks, and they actually use bâtonnage or lees stirring for this wine, which helps to add complexity and texture to the wine and also gives it a creamy mouthfeel. This is a technique that's oftentimes used in Burgundy for white Burgundy, and the daughter of Jean-Paul, who's the winemaker, learned how to make wine in Burgundy, so it's no surprise that she uses that technique in her wines as well. This wine features tremendous purity of fruit, and it's mineral driven. It's really a remarkable value for $20 and one that I cannot recommend highly enough. If you're getting value from these picks and enjoying learning about wine collecting strategies, wine recommendations, and other parts of the wine world, please be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next video. I come out with videos like this one once a week. Viewers of my channel know that I'm a big Bordeaux fan, and so it's no surprise that I have a Bordeaux recommendation in this video. Specifically, the next top wine for $20 or less comes from Chateau, Le Tonnelle, and specifically I'm talking about the Chateau, Le Tonnelle, Haut Medoc AOC, Cru Bourgeois from the stellar 2018 vintage in Bordeaux. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Cru Bourgeois designation, this is definitely something to look out for, especially if you're a fan of value in Bordeaux. Cru Bourgeois designations can apply to wines that were produced by producers who are not classified growths in the 1855 classification of Bordeaux, but who have nevertheless received some recognition that they make superior quality wines. To achieve this designation, they have to undergo an evaluation process which involves scrutiny of their production methods and also evaluations of the finished wines. If they achieve recognition and pass these evaluations, they're able to use one of 3 Cru Bourgeois designations for a period of 5 years. And so these 3 tiers are Cru Bourgeois Supérieur, and Cru Bourgeois Exceptional. And this wine is Cru Bourgeois. This is a Bordeaux blend that consists of 60% Cabernet Sauvignon, 35% Merlot, and 5% Petit Verdot. And it comes in at around 13.5% ABV. This one is very structured, perhaps due to the high Cabernet Sauvignon content, and as a result, it's capable for aging for an extended period of time. You can try it young, but you'll definitely need to give it a healthy decant. Nevertheless, this wine is stunning quality at this price point. When I went to Austria a few years back, I went with the expectation that my favorite wines there would be the Rieslings, since I'm a big fan of dry Rieslings, and there's some excellent expressions from Austria. To my surprise, however, it was actually the Gruner Veltliner that I enjoyed the most. And so my next top wine for $20 or less is the Domaine Wachau Federspiel Terrassen Gruner Veltliner, which sells for between $16 and $20 in the US. You can definitely find it at the lower end of that range if you do a little digging. Gruner Veltliner is an exceptionally food-friendly wine. It even pairs well with vegetables. And so if you're looking for a pairing for asparagus, this is probably your best bet. Domaine Wachau is a cooperative, but it's a cooperative with very high quality. They're known for making wines that offer tremendous quality for the price, and this is certainly no exception. The Terrassen wines are made from fruit from a number of different vineyards. They have rocky soils and extremely low yields, and so there's not enough yield from any one of these vineyards to produce a single vineyard wine economically. And so what they do is they pool all that wine together and produce a wine like this one. This wine is very reflective of these rocky soils and is very complex for a wine of this price point. This is a very dry wine with a medium body and racy acidity. The flavors and aromas include peach, apricot, blossom, lychee, and there's a spiciness that some people describe either as white pepper or perhaps onion. This is an absolute steal for $20 and one that I cannot recommend highly enough. This wine has much more character than many wines that cost double the price. The next top wine for $20 or less is a Zuccardi Q Malbec from the 2019 vintage. This highly acclaimed wine comes from the Uco Valley in Mendoza, Argentina. The fruit for this wine comes from prestigious portions of the Uco Valley. When I visited Zuccardi last fall, I was pleasantly surprised to learn that they reduced the amount of new oak in their wines. As a result, there's a renewed emphasis on the vibrant and beautiful fruit that can be grown in the Uco Valley. Specifically, the aging regimen for this wine consists of 70% concrete and then 30% of large vessels, or 500-liter vessels, that impart much less oak influence than barriques, which are only about 225 liters. And so the result is tremendous purity of fruit. Descriptors include blackberry, black plum, floral notes, and also some wet stone. There's a significant minerality to this wine that I really appreciate. Due to the high altitude in the Uco Valley, there's also a wide diurnal range. And this means that there's warm daytime temperatures that help the grapes to achieve ripeness, but at night, the temperatures drop and it becomes very, very cool. And this helps the grapes to preserve acidity, which results in freshness in these wines. Just an outstanding wine at this price point and one you cannot go wrong with. The next top wine for $20 or less is one of my favorite barbecue wines. Specifically, I'm talking about the Sagacio Sonoma Zinfandel, which I found for $18.99. Sagacio was established way back in 1895, which is certainly impressive for an American winery. They have 300 acres of vineyards located throughout Sonoma. Their Zinfandel vines are particularly impressive as they have a large amount of old vines that range in age from 50 to an impressive 125 years old. Sagacio is one of the most highly acclaimed producers of Zinfandel in California, and certainly they do have some more expensive options as well. This wine is well received by critics and routinely scores in the 90s. If you haven't tried this wine yet, it's very spicy and has some impressive, vibrant, brambly fruit, but it's also well balanced. And so it's one that I definitely think you'll enjoy, and definitely give it a shot if you enjoy barbecue. If you're looking for more recommendations at the $25 or $30 price points, be sure to check the links in the description below, where I've linked my videos for recommendations at those price points as well.